Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for attending virtually in light of our current events. We feel very much gratitude and appreciation that you can join us this evening. I am Allison Brooks, Dr. Brooks. I'm a board-certified OBGYN and also the privileged holder of the Ginny Uberoth Executive Medical Director Endowed Chair of the Hoag Women's Health Institute. I am your host this evening, and I believe that you will find an amazing storyline, and hopefully will leave at the end of this evening feeling inspired by what you do in your lives and looking for ways and innovative approaches to make a difference to our community. So first, I get to have the pleasure of introducing Anusha Wijayakumar. She's going to open this event with a guided mindfulness reflection. You will also hear from her at the end of this evening with a guided meditation. She is our wellness coach at the Hoag Women's Health Institute. Anusha.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, Dr. Brooks, and welcome everybody. It is such an honor and a blessing to be here with you all today. And we have so much wonderful information and inspiration planned for you all. And we're going to kick all of that off today with one of my favorite mindfulness kind of reflective practices. So I invite everybody to come to a comfortable seat wherever you are. Gently close the eyes if that feels good to you. If you don't wish to close the eyes and that doesn't feel comfortable, that's absolutely fine. You can stare at a focal point on the ground. And just take a moment here to settle in. Just allowing the mind to come into this present moment. Relaxing the shoulders down away from the ears. Relaxing and releasing the muscles in the face. Any tension in the neck, the jaw area. Releasing the point between the eyebrows. And just taking a moment to arrive into this moment. Letting the day that has gone by be released. Not concerning yourself with what is to come this evening, tomorrow. But just drawing your attention to your breath. Now I invite you to take the right hand and place it on the belly and the left hand to place on top of the heart. And let's all take a collective deep inhale here. So feel the inhalation moving from the abdomen up through the chest to the crown of the head. And then feel the exhalation gently falling from the crown, through the chest, back to the abdomen. And let's do that 2 more times. So really beginning to link your body and mind together as one through your breath. And physically making the connection to the body in this moment. So often, especially with the past year, we might find ourselves burdened with responsibilities, the to-do list, worries, but just take this moment to let and release all of those things. Just connecting with the heart space, connecting with the physical body, and allowing the mind to be present with your breath. And as you do this, just return to your normal rhythm and pattern of breathing. I want you to take a moment here to offer yourself some gratitude, some love, some compassion. You are enough. This moment is enough. So allow that intention of gratitude, of self-love, of self-compassion, of non-judgment to settle in to the mind's eye as you breathe those intentions into the heart space, focusing on the inhalation and focusing on the exhalation. The more that we can feel love, compassion, and non-judgment in our own hearts and minds, the more that we can authentically give that to others around us. Let's take another deep inhale and a deep exhale. Release the hands down, palms can be gently pressing on top of the thighs. So we just take a moment again to offer ourselves that gratitude, that love, that compassion, and that non-judgment. You are enough, and this moment is enough. Gently start to feel the weight of your legs on the chair, the weight of your arms on your legs, the weight of your head on your neck, as you slowly and gently blink the eyes open, returning to your physical surroundings. I hope you enjoyed that. That's just a very simplistic mindfulness practice that you can do anywhere at any time. You don't have to have your eyes closed. It just really enables you to immediately bring the body and mind together through your breath. So now I'll hand back to Dr. Brooks.
Wow, thank you, Anusha. I feel very relaxed. I'm hoping to bring myself back to the present. And again, thank you to everyone for joining us. I want to just give you a little bit of overview of what you're going to experience over the next 45 minutes or so. Is I will start out by giving you some updates, things that have been happening at the Women's Health Institute over the last year. And we have three presenters, Dr. McDonald, Dr. Abaid, and Anusha, who will share an inspiration or what has inspired them in their work and innovations that have become available to women in our community related to those inspirations. We also will invite you and actively encourage you to participate in our question and answer session. So there is a toolbar in the middle of your screen where you are able to provide, yes, there we go, thank you. Press that and write any question. And once we have finished our presentations, we will reach back out and engage in dialogue on those. So this is by women and for women, and we invite you to sit back and enjoy what we have for you. So next slide, please. So recently, Sue Gross and her new foundation awarded the Hoag Breast Center a $5 million naming grant. And what you have in front of you is just a view of the amazing group of women, the staff, the radiologists, the technologists that participate in providing comprehensive and holistic and compassionate care for women at all stages and all ages of life. Obviously, with mammography, the first introduction is usually at age 40, but as you'll hear from Dr. McDonald and also Dr. Abaid, we have some prevention programs where we address the engagement of individuals at younger ages based on family risk or hereditary risk. Next slide. Our gynecologic health program this year, US News and World Report, ranked our gynecology program number 37 in the country. This was an upward movement, and we're thrilled and very confident with the team that we have that participates in providing minimally invasive approaches to severe as well as rather straightforward gynecologic conditions. Many of you will recognize the team that is there on the right. Dr. Lisa Abaid is the mini but mighty on the left, and you'll be hearing from her in a little bit. But that is her team of GYN oncologists that make Hoag ever so proud. Next slide. And our wellness and prevention services that are offered at the Hoag for Her Center for Wellness, both in Irvine and in Newport Beach, are a place to, it's a safe haven really for women, a place for education, a place for sharing, a place for learning and growing. And many of you have participated in these salons or events. Now this year, many of them are virtually, and we invite you to continue to do that going forward. We have something interesting. We're called Her Talks rather than TED Talks or TED Med Talks. And so if you check out the Hoag website, you can see when those are available to the community. Next slide. We're so excited to bring maternity services to Irvine. Actually, next week on December 8th, we're hoping to deliver our first baby at the FUDGE Family Birthing Suites at Hoag Hospital, Irvine. And here it's more than just a place to go to have a baby. It was intended to be an incredible experience from the time that you enter your single room to the time that you leave home, hopefully with your bundle of joy. And during your time there, having access to large spacious rooms, as well as outdoor settings in the walking garden. Next slide. You can see the rooms, they're very spacious. They're designed to have a home-like feel as well as with spa-like amenities. But in these suites, it's your domain, it's your safe haven. And we guarantee you and make our promise and our commitment to make this one of the most personalized and wonderful journeys that a woman, her family, her grandparents, and her children can experience. Next slide. We do invite all of you to the virtual grand opening. Registration is very easy on the hoag.org/fudge opening. And thank you, Karen. So one of the announcements was that the rooms are stunning. You'll have to see, they're really incredible. But the virtual grand opening is on Thursday, December 10th from 5 to 6 p.m. And I've heard that we have roughly 750 individuals signed up to help participate and enjoy the celebration, including we have a special blessing from our chaplain. Even I could register simply, and I'm not that well versed. I'm going to go ahead and start out by introducing you to Heather McDonald. Dr. Heather McDonald is our medical director of the high-risk breast program at Hoag. She is also a board-certified obstetrician gynecologist and a fellowship-trained surgical breast oncologist. She's an amazing woman, got a kind spirit, and she's going to share some of her inspiration for what she does on a daily basis and some of the innovations that have resulted and are available to you in our community. Heather?
Thank you so much, Dr. Brooks, and thank you everybody for the invitation to participate with this event this evening. Some of you have heard me speak about this program before. You know it is near and dear to my heart, and at any opportunity, I enjoy talking about what we've developed here at Hoag. So the one key part of the high-risk breast program is the breast and ovarian cancer prevention program. And this program is designed to take care of families that carry a gene that puts them at risk for breast or ovarian cancer. BRCA or BRCA is the best known, but there are a whole host of them. You can imagine for these families and these women who we refer to as previvors, that they carry a risk of breast cancer that can be as high as 80%, a risk of ovarian and other pelvic cancers that can be as high as 60%. That's quite a heavy burden to have in a family. And most families know they carry these genes because many people have had cancer, and perhaps there's been a family history of loss. So the needs of these families go way beyond just medical care with early detection of cancer should it occur, and all of the technologic advances that we have, some of which Dr. Abade will address, in preventing those cancers, including removal of ovaries, pelvic organs, and breast tissue to reduce the risk of cancer. But the needs of these families go way beyond simply imaging and surgery. These mutations impact a woman's health in many different ways, her spiritual health, her psychological health, as well as her physical health. So our program is designed to try and embrace the family in all the areas where they need us. It includes myself as a breast surgeon, Dr. Abade as our GYN oncologist, a social worker, a mental health expert, a genetic counselor, Anusha, our wellness coach, a dietitian, and an activity coach, a multidisciplinary team, as well as navigators and nurses that surround these families to try and meet their needs. But I'm going to highlight one of those innovations this evening that is truly near and dear to my heart, and I'm going to highlight it with a patient story. So one of the unique things about our program at Hoag is we welcome families into our program at any stage of their journey through these cancer mutations. It can include women who've already had cancer. It can include women who've already had their risk-reducing surgeries. And that makes us unique. Most programs around the country, once a patient has had her risk-reducing surgery of removal of ovaries and or breast tissue, tell the patient she doesn't need their services anymore, discharge the patient from the program, and patients describe feeling kind of pushed out of the door or pushed out of the nest. So we welcome patients at any stage of their journey. And Dr. Abaid and I met a woman who had been treated for breast cancer 5 years earlier. As a young woman, it was diagnosed during a pregnancy. She was married at the time to her high school sweetheart, and they, as a couple, came through her breast cancer diagnosis, its treatment, what was a very challenging and difficult pregnancy, and then raising of their family. And we met her 5 years later, and she was truly a broken spirit. She was mourning the loss of her femininity. She was mourning the loss of her reproductive capacity that she had lost to the cancer treatment, and then the additional things we did to protect her from the risk of ovarian cancer that she also had. And this was 5 years later. You can imagine how difficult that burden was for her to carry. And when we met her, she broke down in tears, describing to me she was worried she was losing her marriage because she had lost her sense of her own femininity and lost her intimate relationship. So we are very fortunate at Hoag to have a psychologist who is specially trained in sexuality and intimacy, and we immediately got her into treatment. But it was a real aha moment for me that it's too late for us by the time a patient comes 5 years later to tell us about these issues, that we really owe it to our patients to give them the tools to navigate through that process. Can you imagine you didn't lose your life to cancer, but you lose probably the most important relationship in your life, that with your partner. So Dr. Abaid and myself and our sexuality psychologist, Dr. Stephanie Buehler, created a program that I am not aware exists anywhere else in this field, where every patient that comes to our program who is undergoing risk-reducing surgery is invited to meet with our sexuality psychologist both before and after, to educate her on what to expect from a psychological point of view from these surgeries that can change us so drastically biochemically, as well as change our appearance. Partners are very much encouraged to participate. And I'll just share with you a funny moment that I've had so many times. A couple comes in, she's talking about risk-reducing surgery. He's a good guy, he's sitting in the corner, he loves his wife, he really wants her to be healthy, but you can see he's afraid. And then I mentioned we have this program to address the sexual side effects of these surgeries and how to navigate that, what can and what doesn't have to be lost to these surgeries. And the first thing you see on his face is a huge relief. You can tell he's been worried about this, but he doesn't want to be a bad guy and be the one who brings it up when the rest of us are talking about cancer. And so he's so relieved until I say, and we really invite you to come in as a couple because we need to give you the tools to communicate. And then of course, just look of shock and horror goes across his face. But I'll share with you that this has, I think, become one of the most powerful parts of our program. We give couples the tools to deal with this transition or this change that they're going to go through in a way that protects that most important thing in our life, our family units. So that's the innovation I wanted to highlight. Like I said, I'm unaware that this exists in this form anywhere else in our field, taking care of these families at such strong cancer risk. And this program was completely developed by philanthropy. And we offer this sexuality education to our patients regardless of their ability to pay, because that's how important we think it is for their future. So thank you for listening to my story or my patient's story and highlighting, I think, one of the parts of this program that I'm the most proud of.
Wow, thank you, Heather. That was, we can feel your passion and your compassion, and we're thrilled that we have this sexual psychologist and can address up front these type of issues that are universal in many cases and not well talked about in most cases. So I'm really excited now to introduce Dr. Lisa Abade. She is a board certified OBGYN and fellowship trained in gynecologic oncology. So she takes care of women with gynecologic cancers, so cancers that occur between the belly button and the top of the thigh. She is also the medical director, along with Dr. Heather McDonald, of the High Risk Breast and Ovarian Cancer Prevention Program. I fondly, I refer to Dr. McDonald as a unicorn, but I refer to Dr. Abade as mini but mighty. She's tiny, but she fills the room, and she does amazing work through tiny incisions to give women choices and options and to preserve their dignity and their self-love and their respect of their body while going through cancer or other complex gynecologic conditions. So Lisa?
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Brooks, and thanks to everyone for participating in this program tonight. I'm really excited to be invited to come and speak to you. And it's my involvement with the high risk program with Dr. McDonald has been fantastic. It's just a great innovation. And when we were discussing this program and talking about innovation, the thing that I kept coming back to was the thing to me that has really revolutionized the way that we take care of women in gynecologic oncology, which is minimally invasive surgery. So I'm going to go off a little bit on a tangent or on a kind of a side discussion about some of the details of the types of surgeries that we offer and the way that it's really evolved, and we've been able to innovate to try to preserve women's quality of life and their functionality and their minimize recovery times. When I was in training, and it's getting longer and longer ago now, but about 12 years ago when I finished training, most cancer surgery was still done through these big open incisions, either up and down or side to side, but the old-fashioned way. And being able to do a full cancer operation through little incisions was first developed with laparoscopic instruments, which are instruments that we hold in our hand. They're long and thin, and they go through these little incisions. And during my fellowship training, this evolved into a type of laparoscopic surgery called robotic surgery, where those instruments are then controlled using a robotic platform that I control with my hand. So some of my patients say, do you just turn that robot on and then go have coffee and it does the hysterectomy for you? And so we kind of talk about that every move that's made is being controlled by me, but it allows me to, it's almost like shrinking myself down to this size and shrinking my hands down so I can use my hands. The instruments have wrists on them. I can do these very, very complex surgeries through these little tiny incisions. And doing so has really allowed us to, for a cancer population, which in general maybe tend to be a population that's older, maybe with some additional health issues. And so a population that is going to have a higher risk of problems with a big open incision, we can now really just completely change their recovery by doing it through these little incisions. So the innovation that I wanted to discuss is really the development of robotic surgery and in particular, Hoag's program, which I've been so lucky to be involved with over these last 12 years. When I talk to patients about these surgeries and say, this big cancer operation that used to take 3 or 4 hours and was a week in the hospital and 2 months of recovery, we now do it through 4 or 5 little incisions. You'll go home the same day. It's an outpatient surgery. Your recovery time by 3 days, women are driving. By 2 weeks, they're about 90% back to normal. It's revolutionary. And I can't tell you how many people, A, don't believe me when I tell them what their recovery will be like, and then B, come back and say, my friends, my neighbors, when we still could go get outside and talk to people, nobody can believe I just had a surgery. So it's really sort of bringing this into the community, and people are becoming more and more aware, but it's just such a shift from where we were years ago with our parents and our grandparents. Hoag's program in particular, so when I came, we had 1 robot in 2008, and we've now grown to where we have 8 robots between Hoag Newport and Hoag Irvine, which is just a phenomenal number. And that number, is not anything in isolation. It's all of the investment in time and in personnel and staffing that Hoag has really brought to being able to provide the service for our patients. When you look at these numbers, and I actually just found this out today because I was curious. I was talking to the robotics rep that we work with, how many programs in the country have these kinds of numbers? And he said 20. And if you think about that, in the United States, there are 20 programs that have 8 robots, and Hoag is one of them. And the other programs we're talking about are, the Mayo Clinic, MD Anderson, Memorial Sloan Kettering, these really big academic institutions. And so what we've been able to build, and I would say that our volume is probably towards the top of that list because of some of the efficiencies that we've been able to build in. So I was so impressed with that. The other really impressive piece of information that I found out and wanted to share with you is that I knew that the robotics program had really been built with philanthropic support, but 7 of our 8 robots were actually purchased by philanthropic means or philanthropic funding, which is just, as a surgeon, just the gratitude that I feel for the support, not just from Hoag, but from the community to allow us to build a program like this. I was really just impressed by that. So anyway, it's something that I feel so fortunate to be able to share with our patients and to be able to provide. For me personally, I describe that, it feels like I shrunk myself down and I'm in there to the point that sometimes I'll try to grab something with my pinky or, something where I almost feel like it's really my hands in there. There was sometimes you'll get a little bit of condensation on the lens, and I had somebody who just sort of tapped the side of the camera to try to get it off. And I literally felt like somebody was hitting me in the head. You just get so enmeshed in it. So to be able to get inside and do these very complex surgeries with these little incisions, you can seal these tiny blood vessels to really minimize blood loss. It's fast, it's safe, it reduces infection, it's a quick recovery time. It's just unparalleled in terms of being able to offer these benefits to our patients. The other technology or the other revolution, I would say, in terms of cancer in particular, is our ability to map out lymph nodes and do what we call a sentinel lymph node removal. So we can, we used to just remove 10 to 20 lymph nodes in the pelvic area to figure out if, for example, a uterine cancer had spread to the lymph nodes. And now we can actually inject a special fluorescent dye that I can flip a switch on the camera and sort of light up the lymphatic system and just take 1 or 2 nodes. That gives me the same piece of information without having to do such an invasive surgery and expose the woman to risks of leg swelling or lymphedema down the road. So it's just remarkable the advances that we've had. This technology is applicable for women all across the board. We actually do robotic surgeries for some young female patients at CHOP, at the Children's Hospital, where they have these, we encounter these ovarian or pelvic masses. Women in pregnancy, this is a very safe approach to removing a mass that's found in pregnancy. Women with complex benign problems, obviously women with cancer. There's really almost everything that I see and do in gynecologic oncology has been touched by this. And we keep evolving, we keep moving closer and closer to trying to make our ability to improve women's lives and take care of them as least disruptive as we possibly can. When I was in training, one of my attendings would joke that we're going to get to the point where some woman will be in her office at work and we'll kind of wheel in this robot and say, excuse me, we're just going to hook this up and do your surgery, and then get out of the way and let her finish her day. And it's a bit of an exaggeration, obviously, but that's really the goal, is how can we help our patients and keep their lives as normal as possible and keep their function as normal as possible. So that's what I wanted to discuss. And it's obviously an area that I'm very passionate about. I feel very fortunate to be part of Hoag and in a place where we have such great support for this program.
Thank you, Dr. Abate. That was wonderful. And if I could just digress for a moment, I mean, you can imagine that Dr. McDonald and Dr. Abate lead this program that's called High Risk Breast and Ovarian Cancer Prevention Program. So they've identified up to this point close to 165 women and families that carry genetic mutations. And you can imagine the fear and anxiety that goes along with that. But as they meet with them and address them in this holistic way with sexual psychologists and surgeons and OBGYNs and meditation and mindfulness experts, that Dr. Abate actually can say to them, when and if, or if and when you need surgery, I will get you back to you very quickly. We have that capability, we have that technology, and it will be as good, if not better, than the choices and options that were available over the past few years. So thank you for that. And that's what we talk about, that safe haven for women, by participating in some of the programs that would otherwise be very scary conditions that they feel that they're dealing with alone. So the next presenter is Anusha Wijayakumar. It's a mouthful, but she is amazing, and we just call her Anusha. And she began our evening together with her, her reflection, and now she will be leading us on a guided meditation at the end of this program. But in between, I just want to share that Anusha leads up yoga, meditation, mindfulness, and also has a series that she does herself. She has her own business called Shanti Within, that is about collective consciousness and raising awareness of many of the things that are happening in our community and in our nation that have direct impact, either positively or negatively, on women. So she's a force to be reckoned with, and I'm happy to introduce her and let her share her inspiration and innovation. Anusha?
Thank you so much, Dr. Brooks. That was a very kind and very humbling introduction. And I just have to pause for a moment and say, what a blessing, first of all, it is for me to be here with all of you. Thank you so much for joining us for this. But I have the utmost privilege to work directly with Dr. Brooks, who has been such a significant mentor in my life since I started with Hoag almost 6 years ago now. It's been a long time. And I've learned so much from Dr. Brooks and her vision of women's health. I mean, quite frankly, we wouldn't be doing that integrative medicine and holistic wellness without the vision of Dr. Brooks. I also have the blessing of working personally with Dr. McDonald and Dr. Abaid as part of the HPOC program. And that's what I'm here to talk to you all today about. And I will say, and I'll say this again at the end, but thank you all, because without your generous support, I wouldn't be able to do the vast majority of work that I personally do at Hoag. It's because of all of you and the generous donations that you make to the Hoag Foundation that we are able to be cutting edge. We are able to offer things that other hospitals, not even within the county, but neighboring counties and even across the country, are not able to do. So without further ado, I wanted specifically to highlight two things that I'm working on: the Hoag Breast and Ovarian Cancer Prevention Program. That'll be the inspiration. And then I'll get to the innovation after I share the inspiration with you. So I love my job. I really do. I can't believe that it's a job, that I get to share this ancient wisdom, which makes up the fabric of my life, with all of our staff as well as our patients specifically. And when I came to the HPOC program, and I actually joined at the beginning of, I was already at Hoag, so when the program commenced, I was here, and we were able to offer meditation and mindfulness, as well as fitness, as well as our dietitian, and as Dr. McDonald mentioned, our sex psychologist services as well. So very cutting edge, very unique. And what we found back in 2016 was that people were delighted to actually, not have to, pay basically for these services, because we were able to offer them through philanthropy, but also that we were providing integrative medicine and holistic wellness. And, to this date, the response from our patients is always one of utter joy. They're excited to meet with myself and our fitness coach and our dietitian, so we can work with them on an individual plan about their needs. So the story that I have to share with you today, because I do love sharing a quote and a story. And the patient story that I have with you today is one that really touched me personally. This patient came to us. She had breast cancer surgery. She was also going to be one of our patients as part of our research study that I'll talk about in the innovation. And my first meeting with her, she was in a very, very bad mood, for starters. So upon greeting her, I took her into our conference room in Irvine. And, I could see that she was very frazzled and just annoyed. And so I took a moment, I have to go through this induction process for the research program, but I took a moment and at the outset, I just said to her, how are you doing? And then it was almost like the floodgates opened. And she just said to me, look, I apologize. I know I'm in a really bad mood. I've just been having a really rough time. quite honestly, it isn't even to do with my cancer. And then she proceeded to kind of give me the whole kind of gamut of what was going on in her life. She was in a very stressful job. She was also dealing with chronic pain that actually had nothing to do with her cancer diagnosis. So she was somebody that did like to be active, but was rather inhibited because of this chronic pain. And she kept telling me about this holiday that she had taken to New Zealand. And that's what happens, very often. I think of, our lives and stress, and we tend to live for that one vacation. And this patient was like, oh, when I was in New Zealand, I wasn't in pain. I didn't feel stressed. I was able to go biking, just being in nature. And I can't stop thinking about that. And so I kind of, gave her this introduction to meditation and mindfulness and told her that, it's wonderful that we all, certainly myself included pre-COVID, look forward to a good vacation. But how do we create that mindset within our daily lives? And that was a really new concept to her. And she didn't believe it, to be honest with you. So I inducted her into the program, and I actually took the time to kind of lead her through a short mindfulness and meditation practice. And within that moment, she shared that she actually had stopped feeling some of that chronic pain. Anyway, fast forward, she has her surgery that was hugely successful, thanks to Dr. McDonald. I meet with her again as part of this program that she has been inducted into, which is our research study that, again, I'll talk about in the next slide. She is like a changed person. I get to meet with the patients as part of this study program 3 times. I couldn't believe the change. Felt happier, more joyous, had been doing the meditations twice a day, which is what we instruct them to do, and just said that it was subtle at first. It helped her manage her pain perioperatively, and it helped her just deal with life. And to me, that's what I want to inspire all of our patients to do that come to us at Hoag. Not that meditation is this big, aha moment. Of course it can be, but it's those subtle changes that we all get once we commit to doing a practice, and kind of seeing how the lives of our patients have been influenced by our program, and specifically that holistic wellness piece, is something that gives me so much joy. And I just want to end before we move to the next slide by also sharing another patient that I met with as part of the HBOT program, shared with us afterwards that even though obviously it was negative that she had breast cancer, she was actually quite grateful because it led her to Hoag, it led her to our program, and it led her to understand and embrace a daily meditation practice because it had changed her life. So, and that's all thanks to all of you. So now the innovation. And this is something, again, I just said this, but I'm very excited about all that I do at Hoag. But this research study in particular is one that is very close to my heart. And just a little bit of background, thank you to the generosity of Sue Mears, who I believe may be joining us today. So thank you again, Sue, so much for your support for the launch of our research study that we are doing at the Women's Health Institute. Myself, Dr. Heather McDonald, came up with this idea, it feels like centuries ago, but it was at least 2 to 3 years ago now. So it's definitely been a long time in the making. And we finally launched this year, and we're seeing wonderful results. Basically, the research program is introducing patients with a breast cancer diagnosis to meditation practices. And we induct them a week before their surgery. I meet with them personally. I induct them. It's part of my program at Shanti Within, as Dr. Brooks mentioned. That is a program that I've tried and tested on my patients and clients for the past 4 years. And we give them 2 recorded meditations that they can complete each day, and a very simplistic log of medication and meditation. And they basically are instructed to do these meditations twice a day for 12 weeks. And we are seeing anecdotally such promising results from this program. The patient that I shared in the previous slide was actually one of the patients from this program. And, it's amazing and so heartening to see the difference that meditation makes. Perioperatively in terms of pain management, because we are looking at that for narcotics usage, but also beyond that. When Dr. McDonald and I sat down 3 years ago to talk about this, what we really wanted to do was that Hoag difference, was really inspiring patients beyond their surgery, beyond the time that they even meet with us, to actually make a difference in their daily lives through these practices. So through the generosity of Sumirs, we're able to actually have started this research study, and we're really excited to continue. Dr. Khan is also a part of this study, who works at our breast center in Newport, and I can't wait to share more details with you all. But all I can say is it is a blessing to be able to come to Hoag and work with this, group of truly inspiring and amazing women. And it is a true blessing to be able to do the work that I do because of all of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Anusha. That was great. I love how you find the silver lining of COVID. So we are going to move on to responding to some of your questions. And one of the first questions out of the gate, which thank you very much for asking this question, because it's very relevant to why we're all meeting and interacting over Zoom. The question is, does coronavirus affect women differently? So I will profess that I am not a coronavirus or COVID specialist. And a little bit tongue in cheek, I'm going to give you an answer, my answer, which is absolutely. Because everything affects women a little bit differently because of the position that we hold in our families or at work or with ourselves. But we do know that pregnant women specifically are at higher risk of COVID-related complications by the mere fact that they're pregnant. It's affecting 2 individuals, sometimes 3 if they have twins. But very fortunately, we've tested close to 1,000 pregnant women for infection with COVID as part of our universal testing program as women come in to labor or deliver or to have a C-section or a surgery. And we have only had less than 25 women test positive and only 6 that were hospitalized for treatment of their COVID illness in addition to being pregnant. So for the majority that were found to be positive, they did not have symptoms. They were not sick from the disease, but they tested positive. So we do follow women probably a little bit more aggressively, and there's a lot more counseling that goes on with women. And one of the ways that I do think that it impacts women indirectly is fear of coming in for regularly scheduled preventative health visits. Because many, the statistics tell us that women that have families are the chief medical officer for their family, at least 80% of the time, if not 100% of the time. And they envisage, to use one of Anusha's words, envisage that coming to the hospital or to a breast center or to a surgery center would be unsafe or less safe than being in the community or being in their own home. And so I'm going to actually let Heather maybe speak to some of the efforts that have been made to ensure the safety of anyone that comes to get their regular preventative mammograms or whatever, and what efforts were being taken to invite you back with full knowledge that we want you to be taking care of yourselves and not delaying any diagnosis, any treatment, any prevention because of your role both within the family and in the community.
Thank you for that invitation, Dr. Brooks. And this does hit on something that's close to all of our hearts right now. Is we know that everybody is juggling risk right now. It feels like every foot out the front door is accepting a risk of some kind. But I do want to reassure people that I feel like we have figured out a very safe way to have people come into the breast center and continue to get screening mammograms, diagnostic mammograms. During the spring, we had scaled back on our services. I think when none of us were really sure what COVID was. But since May, our breast centers have been open full service. We never actually closed. We were always open for anyone who had a lump or a complaint or a new cancer diagnosis. We continued treating breast cancer through the entire pandemic, and that includes surgery and chemotherapy and radiation and all the things that our patients need. But at our breast centers, we have spread out our appointments to reduce crowding in waiting rooms, to reduce wait times. We have also spread out our appointments to allow for a more intensive cleaning of the mammogram machines between patients. I mean, obviously they were always cleaned between patients, but now there's a more intense cleaning. You'll see all of our staff is masked and eye protection, because anyone who's had a mammogram knows it's a very intimate contact with the mammography tech, as she places a woman in the mammogram machine and moves the machine and the patient. So for both the safety of our staff and the safety of our patients, everybody is masked and wearing eye protection and gowned and protected. So I feel like we have figured out a way to do this safely, and I'm pleased to report people have come back. Our breast centers have been operating at capacity again, which as someone who just literally worries that people are sitting at home growing cancer and not coming in to see us, I'm pleased to see that they're coming back. I'll invite Dr. Obaid to share her experience, but I'll share with you, I have not yet had a patient who's contracted COVID as part of her breast cancer workup or treatment. I have had patients who have developed COVID, who have contracted it in some other way in their life. Thankfully, all have recovered. But I have, and I reassure each one of my patients of this, I have zero nervousness about a patient coming in to get the mammogram, coming in for her consultation, coming in for surgery, coming in for chemotherapy. And this is actually supported by national studies. National studies have not shown that people on chemotherapy are having a disastrous course through COVID. They're not showing that people coming in for surgery are at incredibly high risk of contracting COVID. So I try my hardest to reassure people, we have figured out how to do this safely. COVID should not stand in the way of cancer detection or cancer treatment at all. It's not worth taking that risk. I will share with you that one of the safest places I feel is in that operating room right now. It's much safer than Costco, much, much safer. So I encourage people, please, yourselves, your friends, your sisters, your mothers, your daughters, please bring things to our attention. Please come in and get your screening mammograms. We have figured out a way to do this safely. We are here to take care of you. To me, the biggest tragedy, and I heard this over the summer, were people who were saying, I felt the lump and I was too afraid to come in. And now it's months of delay before their cancer is detected. That is just not necessary right now. And I don't know, Dr. Obaid, if there's anything you want to add to that.
Well, I'm certainly not a COVID expert either, but in terms of does it affect women differently, we've clearly seen that women actually do better. Not that that should inspire us to take off our masks or anything, but they do better to the point where there was a trial going on where they were actually giving men estrogen to see if that was helpful. So, go us. But in terms of patients, as Dr. McDonald said, we've not stopped. In women who had cancer, we did cancel or postpone some surgeries for things that were benign and not dangerous to delay. But for cancer, there's across all cancers, there can be up to a 10% increase in mortality for each 4-week delay for GYN cancers, for each 4-week delay in treatment. So 3 months is a big deal. And we did see the same thing after that sort of March, April, May kind of shutdown. We did see more women coming in who were really sick, sicker than I've seen in a long time. I agree that I think the safest place I feel right now is a hospital. All the patients are screened for COVID before they come in. All the staff is screened every morning. Everybody is 100% compliant with masks and personal protective equipment. So coming in to have a mammogram or to have a surgery or our office is using those same precautions. It is safe, and it's a lot safer than most of the other things that we do and don't really think too much about it. So I would just echo what Dr. McDonald said, just to come in if you are due for a screening or if you have a concern.
Okay, I'm going to move on to a couple other questions here. So we are recording this session, and Val, I'm going to ask, will this be posted on the website within the next few days so it can be shared with others in the community? She's on mute, but that is my understanding. And the best way to get more information about the recordings that we do, the virtual events that we're holding, the types of programs that we offer at the Hoag for Her Center for Wellness or the HERA program or the high-risk breast and ovarian cancer prevention program is through the Hoag.org website. It's not, in terms of websites right now, it's a teeny bit difficult to navigate, but you go to Women's Health Services, and then they will guide you to, are you looking for information about maternity or pregnancy, about cancer, about complex gynecologic conditions, about health and wellness, or a variety of things. So it's the Hoag.org website, Women's Health Services or Women's Health Institute. And we have videos posted there. We have some blogs, and there's some social media activity going on as well. So here's another question. And I'm gonna look to Dr. Abate and Dr. McDonald on this, but are Hoag's preventative services or prevention services available to family members of a late patient who was previously treated at Hoag? So an individual outside of the Hoag family. Or inside of the Hoag family, but.
So somebody who carries the same genetic mutation as the family member who was affected. And as of right now, and Dr. McDonald can clarify, but as of now, we do require that there is an identified genetic mutation. And if there's a suspicion of one, but it hasn't yet been diagnosed, then we would refer that patient to our genetic counselors to get evaluated and screened. And if they do indeed carry the mutation that their family member had, they would absolutely be welcome in the clinic, regardless of the status of their family member.
So our breast and ovarian cancer prevention program is just one piece of a network of cancer prevention programs. There's a colorectal prevention program, there's a pancreas prevention program, there's a melanoma screening, there's lung. I'm embarrassed to admit I'm not even remembering all of them. So probably for a family member of someone who is lost to a cancer, a good place to start is with our Hoag Family Cancer Center genetic counseling program, because they will figure out what testing needs to be done, and whatever that family history is that's putting someone at risk, they will then direct the family to the appropriate prevention program. If it's breast and ovarian, it's us. If it's one of the others I've listed or any of the ones that I'm embarrassingly forgetting, it'll be to them. Many families end up with multiple programs because some of these cancer risks are linked. But that's a good place to start, is with our genetic counseling program.
Okay, thank you. So we are out of time on our Q&A, but I did get clarification that the recording will be emailed to all participants. So it looks like at one point during this session, we've had up to 70 participants, and they'll be emailed to all of you, so you can share as you see fit. So now I'm going to say thank you again for participating, and we're going to close with a nice mindfulness session by Anusha.
Thank you, Dr. Brooks. So everybody, just again, come to a comfortable seat if you're not already. Legs are uncrossed. Soles of the feet are planting on the floor. If you're seated in a chair, you can sit on the floor, but I always encourage people to just sit in a chair because it makes it much more comfortable. Palms can be facing down or up, just whatever feels best to you, on tops of the thighs. Again, gently close the eyes if that serves you. If not, just begin to withdraw one of your main senses of sight by staring at a focal point on the ground. And let's again just take a moment to set this up as we gently relax the shoulders down away from the ears. We relax and release the muscles in the face, any tension in the neck, the jaw area, releasing the point between the eyebrows, releasing the tongue from the hard palate of the roof of the mouth. And just allowing the mind to settle into that place of stillness and of quiet within. Letting go of your daily cares, your worries, your concerns. You have none of those things in this moment. All that you have is your breath. If there are any external sounds, just let them be. And start to notice the shape, the weight of your breath in your body, the gentle rising and the falling. And just take a moment to notice how your breath feels. Is it long and smooth, or is it short and shallow? Just notice. You're not trying to breathe in any particular way right now. You are simply breathing as it comes. There are no need for judgments or opinions here. Just allow those to drift away like clouds in the sky as you return to your body and your breath, your body and your breath, your body and your breath. And I want you all in this moment to relax, because there is no doing this practice wrong. If thoughts are coming into the mind, that is completely fine and normal. But just allow those thoughts to drift away like clouds in the sky, returning to your body and your breath. You will soon be inhaling for my count and exhaling for my count. So gently exhale all of the air out of the lungs. And then begin the inhalation through the nose with the mouth closed for 1, 2, 3. Exhale through the nose with the mouth closed for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Continue that breath work pattern for 3 more rounds at your own pace, to your own count. So you're inhaling for 3 and you're exhaling for 5. And as you inhale, I want you to silently repeat to yourself, I am at peace. And as you exhale, I want you to silently repeat to yourself, all is well in my world. I am at peace on the inhalation. All is well in my world on the exhalation. And as you inhale, really allow yourself to feel a sense of peace washing over you in this moment. And as you exhale, allow yourself to feel that all is well in your world, regardless of your external situation or circumstance. You are at peace on the inhale. All is well in your world on the exhale. Once you've completed your 3 rounds of that breathwork pattern, release, returning to your normal rhythm and pattern of breathing. As you start to feel the weight of your legs on the chair, the weight of your arms on your legs, the weight of your head on your neck, as you slowly and gently blink the eyes open, returning to your physical surroundings. It's one of my favorite meditation practices that you can do yourself at home. The specific breath work that we did today really helps to activate, as much breath work does, our parasympathetic nervous system response in the body, which is the aspect of our central nervous system that calms us. This can also be a great breath work practice to do if you suffer from any sleep issues, to focus on the inhale for 3 and that longer exhalation for 5. I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you, Anusha. I did enjoy, and I feel very relaxed and very grateful. So thank you, speakers, all of you, for being here, and thank you for everyone that attended. We wish you wonderful and safe holidays, and we will be emailing you information on how to register for the Fudge Family Birthing Suites virtual grand opening. And as I mentioned, we'll also be emailing you the video recording if you're interested. So thank you very much. I hope you have a good day and take on meditation in the future. Bye.